46 ChatGPT secrets that will double your income. If you use ChatGPT for even just 10% of its real capabilities, you would definitely, without a doubt, double your income. But most people actually use it for less than even 1%. To be honest, sounds like yet another get-rich-quick online webinar. Fair enough. But let's be honest, you usually open ChatGPT, type in a request like write a sales text, and it gives you a bland, generic template. Then you close it and think, well, of course it's all just AI generated. And the problem isn't with the AI itself, the problem is that you just haven't learned how to talk to it yet. Those who know how to communicate properly with AI have already automated their work and increased their income. And I say this based on my own experience. Over 13 years of studying and implementing artificial intelligence. Yes, even before it became a trend, and on the experience of more than 1,000 students whom I have taught and consulted to help them integrate AI into their work. For example, Vadim Dolgov increased his income by 30% just by implementing a single AI assistant. But we'll talk more about that a bit later. In this video, you won't just learn general information about how ChatGPT works, you'll get specific step-by-step life hacks, tips, prompts, and workflows that will help you double your work speed, which of course is directly related to increasing your income as well. And we'll go over ChatGPT life hacks that will double your work speed and impact your income. How can you use ChatGPT for more than just a mere 0.1% of its potential? How do you write texts and generate images that make clients say, please send me your bank details? Or ones you can easily implement into your social media and start earning money. And at the end of the video, I'll give you 10 AI assistants that save me over 300,000 rubles. And these tools work for me, handling routine tasks. They'll help you too. I've also prepared more than 2,000 prompts for ChatGPT that will save you time. So it's worth watching this video until the end and subscribing so that YouTube recommends even more useful videos to you. So let's get started. Let me remind you, my name is Pavel Lebedev, and here, everything about neural networks is explained in simple, clear language so you can immediately apply it, implement it, and gain invaluable benefits. Before we move on to the 46 secrets themselves, one important note. And I need to say this right away. After all, 99% of people use ChatGPT simply as a smarter search engine. At one very large company, I was told that employees had all mastered neural networks and were using them to create birthday greetings for their colleagues. Of course, that's nice, but it's not what humanity expected from this intelligent machine. After all, ChatGPT is capable of so much now. It can process text queries, search the internet, search through YouTube videos and books, understand spoken audio, analyze files, identify what's in photographs, and recognize text in images. It can even recognize screenshots and understand what's happening on the screens. As output, it can generate not only text, but also tables, images, audio with emotions, PDF documents, videos, code, diagrams, links, and design mockups. Never before in human history has there been a machine that could understand so much and produce so much. Here you go. It can even imitate human speech and emotions. It can talk to you live via video, understand what's happening in the frame, and respond to it emotionally. ChatGPT controls the brains of robots that people can already interact with. It can completely replace designers and generate a full-fledged design mock-up in a single click, something that used to seem simply impossible. It can operate the computer for you, go online, make purchases there, and come back, if of course you agree to it. And all of this, of course, is really cool. So now let's figure out which features can help you right here and now to speed up your work and in fact increase your income. And we'll start with the most effective method, which is also, on the other hand, the most obvious way to increase your income using ChatGPT. How? It's actually very simple. If you upload your sales history or a record of what you've earned money from in general into ChatGPT and ask it to find ways to increase your income or profit, surprisingly, it handles this task quite well. We had Pavel, a tutor, who uploaded information about his students there. ChatGPT found a way for him to increase his income by 1.5 times. It looked at how he could form group classes from these students, meaning he wouldn't lose income, but he would have more free time. For Vitaly, the owner of a sushi business, he uploaded his last 70 orders into ChatGPT and asked it to increase his revenue and profit. And ChatGPT found that these sushi items could be sold as part of a combo lunch, well, in a combo pack together with others, and people started ordering with a higher average check, and in this way, he gained an extra 8% profit in just 1 week from this single prompt. Try doing this yourself. The second method is to ask it to criticize in the role of a critic. Here, we need to explain in more detail because most people, when they create something with ChatGPT, ask it to create something and then look at it and say, damn, what kind of rubbish did you write? What a soulless machine you are. Why do we do this, really? Why? That's the question. What if you could just ask ChatGPT, shining itself, to look at what it created and criticize its own work and then ask it to redo it? And in this case, surprisingly, it will start giving you useful feedback. It will say, yeah, I wrote some nonsense, let me rewrite it. First, you save your own resources, mental energy, and time by not having to criticize it, and you get a higher quality result. In other words, you don't have to redo its work. This significantly speeds up the workflow. And as you can imagine, if you double the speed of your work, say creating something with a neural network, you end up doubling your income. You can either earn this within your own company, or you can take on additional tasks, orders, and so on. The next thing ChatGPT can do now. And this feature appeared recently, and I even made a separate in-depth review about it. It does it just amazingly well. It completely replaces designers. Yes, strange as it may seem completely. If you ask it to create a product card for a marketplace, it will do an excellent job, even with infographics. Ask it to make a book cover. Super! A YouTube cover, no problem. It can even arrange text and create layouts. Of course, at this point, professional designers, yes, if any of you are among them, please write in the comments, I am a designer. So I think this is complete crap, say professional designers, but in reality, that's not the case. I'm a professional designer. I've been working in marketing and design for 23 years. I even wrote a book on design. Let me tell you, what this thing does is just truly incredible. I have to say it's genuinely remarkable because it really creates exceptionally high quality layouts that for most types of orders can effectively solve all the issues you might encounter. Yes, of course, there's that high-level craftsmanship when you need to really refine, tweak, or do something truly special, but 99% of people don't need that. And what you can do here with the help of ChatGPT with this feature is create product card designs for marketplaces. And sometimes you need to make a lot of them or redo a lot of them. You can create book covers, YouTube covers, covers for different videos. You can make memes, content, posts, infographics, various diagrams, and slides. And in this way, we can create graphic content much faster without having to hire designers for it. And as you can imagine, if we start creating twice as much content, we get twice as many views, twice as many clients, and twice as much income. So this directly affects the way work is created. For example, we had a student named Maxim who doubled the speed of his work exactly this way. He works in online schools, and as a result, since he started working twice as fast, he can now take on twice as many projects. Now we've covered these three methods, and soon I'll tell you how to send 1,000 requests to ChatGPT at once. I'm not exaggerating or joking here. There really is a way to send 1,000 requests to ChatGPT and get results. And as you can imagine, this isn't just a twofold increase in speed, it's much more than that. The next way to double your income using neural networks is to publish story content. Write I knew in the comments if you already know about this method. Yes, for those who didn't know, I'll explain it now. Because when you post stories on your blog, in Telegram, on the banned Instagram, vContact, or anywhere else, those little things that disappear after 24 hours, you create a very close emotional connection with your audience. Through these things, you can make sales, and quite successfully at that. And in fact, many professionals are aware of this, but most people don't have enough time to create these stories because they disappear every day. That means you have to make them, upload them, and so on every single day. Obviously, people just don't have enough time for this, even though it directly affects sales. So what happens? With the help of ChatGPT, you can speed up the process of creating stories. And here's how to do it. It's a very simple approach. We take a screenshot of your gallery. This is what you've shot today. We take a photo of it and ask ChatGPT, please take a look at this photo gallery, study the picture. This is my feed of photos, and write text for stories for the day. An important addition, in the prompt, you need to specify that it should write using Jeff Walker's technique from the book Launch. That way, it will be a truly sales-oriented series of stories. Also, specify the number of slides you need. As a result, it will look at all of this and generate ideas for what to caption each picture, so that in the end, it leads to the key action you want. So in the end, more content, more clients, more sales, You get the idea. Income here is directly connected. The next way to speed up your work with neural networks and increase your income is to create GPT assistants. What does that mean? If you usually work with a neural network, you have to enter, write out the prompt, send it, get the result, then revise it, and so on. Then a day later, you come back and have to do the same work all over again. Create the prompt again, send it again, and so on. Every time you have to remember this prompt, or even worse, you have to write it out or store it somewhere. Moreover, you can't pass it on to someone else because they might lose the prompt somewhere, forget it, and so on. So a GPT's assistant is when you upload these instructions directly into a virtual bot that is already ready for dialogue and already knows what needs to be done. And this is also similar to how a multi-cooker works. With a multi-cooker, you just walk up, press the bake button, and it already knows the recipe it needs to follow. All you have to do is load in the baking mix. And that's great. And for every recurring task you have, create one of these AI assistants and your work will speed up. We had Ekaterina studying with us, an employee from a logistics company, and a large part of her day, almost 3 working hours a day, was spent receiving documents from one client, then checking whether everything was there, but whether it was filled out or not, filling in any missing information, rewriting it in a new format and sending it to the next contractor who would then handle it. So she spent 3 hours a day doing this. She showed this to ChatGPT and created an instruction like, look, if you receive a document from a client, please check these things. Then reassemble it in this format and send me the result. As a result, she was able to save 3 working hours a day. That is, it increased her speed by 40%. Thus, creating these kinds of GPT assistants for your repetitive tasks is the most reliable way to increase your work speed and income. The next method that allows you to significantly boost the efficiency of ChatGPT is to ask it to do things step by step. This is also not obvious to everyone because most people just type in some question, then ChatGPT gives them something and they say, "Oi, Puyo, now do this, do that." You can immediately ask ChatGPT, just write this phrase to it. Do it step by step and tell me which steps need to be taken. As a result, it will perform much more processing at once. You told it, do it step by step, then left. Maybe to grab a coffee or work on another task. Come back and everything is already done. We had a case like this when Nikita Ustinov from the Moscow Department of Information Technology saved 150,000 rubles this way. Rubles устаёс on creating tests to assess people's competencies because first, as the initial step, he asked ChatGPT to create these tests based on the materials he had. And the second step was to turn these tests into program code that could be immediately uploaded to their assessment and testing system. In this way, he increased the speed and saved money on contractors. Another example, we replaced a lawyer with an AI assistant. And by the way, at the end, I'll give you a link to this lawyer so you can try working with it too. What did we do? We trained it on how to analyze documents and contracts step by step. First, second, third, fourth steps. It reviews and checks where our interests aren't considered. Next, it looks for inconsistencies in contract clauses or anything overlooked. Then it rewrites the contract clauses the way they should be. And in this way, step by step, it solves this task. As a result, it shows us where improvements can be made and speeds up the work. In this way, it has essentially replaced lawyers for all our students, and it really speeds up the work. There has even already been a precedent in Kazakhstan. A person who won a court case, thanks to ChatGPT, because ChatGPT advised how to properly write a legal appeal and gather all the necessary documents in order to win the case right away. We had a case where a student from Latvia got back 1,500 euros from the tax authorities thanks to writing the correct appeal, which was prepared by whom? Of course, by the neural lawyer. I'll tell you later how you can get it. The next approach that will definitely help you is multi-roles. Surely some of you have heard that you can ask ChatGPT to say you are in the role of a lawyer with 20 years of experience, or you are in the role of a marketer, write some kind of sales copy, and so on. Yes, that's a great approach. To multiply your effectiveness several times over, you can use multi-roles. That is, within a single prompt, you can ask it to first look at a task from the perspective of one person, then switch to another role, then a third, then a fourth. Here's a good example. As a marketer, come up with advertising ideas or say ideas for content or posts, then as the target audience, critique them. That's already the second step, yes. In other words, you switch its role. Now, as the target audience, critique these things. Next, as an editor, copywriter, rewrite the texts. And then, as an art director, come up with visuals for this. And after that, you can even ask it, for example, as a financial expert, to calculate the financial model. In this way, from all the knowledge of humanity that is loaded into the mind of ChatGPT, we can select specific portions of knowledge that help solve this particular step, this specific task that we have. Thus, with a single prompt, you can accomplish a huge amount of work. Here's a good example. Natalia Eremenko, a methodologist, completed a month's work in just 3 hours during our practical session. In the same way, you can switch ChatGPT from one role to another. And visually, the diagram looks like this. Yes. How to assign tasks to an AI assistant. That is, you specify the role it should take, what its goal is, what the task is, and the format. Within the task, you can specify which role should perform it and what type of specialist it should act as. The next feature I want to mention, and the next approach, is using deep research. Recently, a feature appeared in GPT Chat, a button you can press. Well, it's available in the paid version, and in the free version, I think it's only available in a very limited format. So, the deep research feature, when we click on it, it starts browsing the internet, gathering information. It can go off and think for maybe even an hour and a half, working on a task, collecting data. So just imagine we're loading up their computer for an hour and a half just to think. During this time, it gathers information from the internet, analyzes and reviews it, and more. Most importantly, it provides a complete, clear picture of what is actually happening. What kinds of tasks can you assign to it? Internet research, you can have it prepare some kind of market analysis or research. For example, something it recently helped me with, I asked it to gather information and lay out a step-by-step plan for preparing for a long-term visa. And yes, just so you understand, to get this visa, you need to prepare about 200 printed pages of documents, and it helped gather all of this and laid out a very clear step-by-step plan. Moreover, it searched not only on Russian language websites, but also on English language ones. And the most important approach in this deep research is to ask it the right question and set the task correctly, so you don't end up like in the movie The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We need the ultimate question about life and death in general, and it will come back in exactly 7.5 million years. And then they say the answer, 42. So if you use it correctly, it gives a good result. For example, for Ella, she managed to achieve the same result in 30 minutes instead of a month's work. In other words, she achieved a very significant time saving. She created this assistant for herself and used deep research to gather information about the trip she needed. And this thing delivers the results to her. Method number 9, first, think through the steps. Previously, we would ask ChatGPT ourselves, what steps needed to be taken to complete a task, but you can also ask it to come up with the solution steps on its own, and then proceed to solve it. Basically, this is the approach used by models that start with the letter O, O3, O1, O4 mini, and so on. So these models are designed for reasoning. They first think, then provide an answer, but we can also ask them to do this thinking in advance. We tell it, first think through the steps to complete this task, and then solve it. In this case, it produces a more accurate answer than it would otherwise. The 10th method is similar to this, but in fact it yields an even more advanced result when we ask it to solve a problem like a programmer. So look, at the moment there is a huge amount of programs and code on the internet that solve various tasks, including even complex computational or logical problems, all handled through programming. And this information is abundant on the internet, and ChatGPT has been trained on it. So we can ask it, solve this problem like a programmer. To do this, you need to write the following in the prompt. Solve the problem using the programmatic of thought method. And then it starts to virtually write a program and tries to solve the problem. And since a program has very clear logical approaches to how things should be done, ChatGPT is much better at solving these complex logical problems in this way. So if you need to do calculations, solve some logical problems, create Gantt charts or anything like that, right? Count the vowels in a word or the letter O in the word okolovo provodnogo, then this method allows you to cope with these tasks just fine. But again, if we get the result on the first try, it speeds up our work. And where there is increased speed, there is also increased income. The next point you can use is not an obvious one, but nevertheless, it works amazingly well. That is to use the memory of artificial intelligence. Yes, it's no secret that ChatGPT collects all information about you as they announce in order to provide you with better answers. And you can take advantage of this in a clever way. You can give it specific commands through this memory. For example, we can say, remember this information about me. If I write you a certain code word, it means you should come up with text. If I write you a different code word, then you shouldn't make things up, but work only with facts. In this way, we can control this model and switch it to the desired mode. Moreover, we can assign it additional functions. For example, if I write these two symbols in a row, then insert this kind of address right here. Or alternatively, you should operate from this particular role from the perspective of this specific target audience profile, for instance. This way, we can work with the neural network more quickly and switch it from one state to another faster, spending less time coming up with prompts and creating them. And all this information is stored in memory. And in fact, for this, in a regular GPT chat where you communicate, you just need to write "remember this" and then tell it directly. It remembers it. This thing won't work if you're not using ChatGPT, but some third-party services. In that case, sorry, it won't remember anything about you. Using voice messages to explain things to people and to clarify tasks. Many people underestimate this, but this feature is incredibly effective for getting work done quickly. So you can turn on the voice message feature, record a message and say, "Hi, I need you to put together this kind of research. Here's my situation." When we speak, we can actually convey a larger amount of context more quickly and easily. And when we provide context, the neural network understands our request more accurately and gives a better response. And it's not a problem if there are a lot of filler words in there. After all, that's a more natural way for us to speak. This way, we can set a task more quickly and send it to ChatGPT. But of course, it's better to send these kinds of long voice messages to models that start with the letter O, because they will handle your request more thoughtfully. They'll first transcribe it, turn it into a list of tasks for themselves, and only then start executing it. This really works, no doubt about it. So you can set tasks faster, get answers more quickly, and double your speed. 13th method, solve a problem using the 3 out of 100 method. And now, many of you might say, "Come on, Pasha, there are already so many methods here." Well, let me explain. Look, the first step is step by step. We wrote out the steps ourselves. The second option is when he thought through these steps like a programmer. But the 3 out of 100 method is when he tried one way and it didn't work. I tried the second method, it didn't work. The third way, oh, it worked and it sticks. So this approach works great when you don't know how to solve the problem yourself. This method is already close to being scientific, but let's be honest, you have tasks in your work that you don't really understand. So why not use a neural network to help you with those? And it's exactly those tasks that are so hard for you to start, the ones where you have no idea, like what's going on, how does it all work? Those are exactly the ones you can delegate to a neural network. So we just write to it and say, solve the problem using the 3 offset method. Then it goes ahead and starts solving the problem, makes a list of steps for itself and tries to solve the problem using one method. If it doesn't get a good solution, it moves on to the second type of solution and tries to solve it differently. Didn't like it, moved on to the third. You can immediately specify that it should use at least 3 different approaches in this case, and at the end have it evaluate each of these methods as well. As a result, we get that it has reviewed the options, and in the end, we'll also rate them. For example, this result gets a 10, this one a 7, and this one a 6. That way, it's immediately clear which of these options suits us best. And actually, yes, this approach is the 14th way, to use a neural network to improve your DU results. In other words, don't just get a result from it, ask it to evaluate what it has done on a 10-point scale according to its own criteria. It doesn't really matter how it does this, but nevertheless, this gives you the opportunity to focus on the method that actually worked, especially if you ask it to, for example, create a content plan of 20 posts and then ask it to rate each of these posts as if it were the target audience using a 10-point scale. How engaging is it? Or the hooks for it, how engaging are they? And that way, you'll have the chance not to get distracted, not to read things that are obviously junk. Because as you know, the neural network can often feed us junk. The next step is to connect the neural network to Sage, social media, through various services. Work speeds up not when you're chatting directly with ChatGPT, but in general, a lot of time is spent specifically on work, communication, and interaction. And if you shift this communication and interaction to ChatGPT, you'll see a significant boost in speed. For example, clients might constantly ask you the same questions and you have to answer them. You simply respond based on some knowledge base. That's one option. Here's another option. You ask clients the same questions in order to fill out an application, a brief, and so on. They call and say, "We need a door." Evgeny studied with us. He has a door manufacturing company. We need a door. And so it's always the same questions. Is it an entrance or an interior door? How many doors? What kind? And so on. And there are quite a lot of these questions, but in reality, they're always the same. And who can you delegate this to? That's right, to ChatGPT, but not directly. Through special services, for example, ChatPlace, GPT, Savvi, I'll list them below. And they allow you to automate this process. Here's an example. Astik has a cafe in Bali, and she connected a neural network OAS so that through ChatPlace, it could respond to all her clients on the banned Instagram. And if someone asks, for example, in Russian, it replies in Russian. If someone asks in Arabic, it replies in Arabic. In this way, she saved money on a manager whom she would have had to pay to respond in all those languages. Here's another example. A specialist from the company Exit created an AI assistant that schedules car viewings for him. And he also built it using ChatPlace. In our team, we created a neural seller that is connected to our CRM and also gives out bonuses and helps sell our courses. So the way this integration works looks quite complex. I actually recorded a detailed video about this in the video about AI agents. And there I explain how these things are used, how to set them up, and how to work with them. The next method is the AI operator. Here we move on to the most powerful methods we currently have. What is it? You can instruct ChatGPT to go to a website on its own, or register by itself, make a purchase, and basically do everything independently. The only downside to this method is that it still works rather roughly for now, meaning it's not yet available to everyone. For example, the operator feature is only available on the Pro plan for $200 in ChatGPT. Claude announced this earlier but hasn't released it for public access yet. However, there are now automation services like N8N or Make, where you can set up these automations yourself, although it does require sufficient knowledge to do so. Nevertheless, in the end, you can set things up so that a system based on your AI agent can access the internet, gather information, create a knowledge base from it, and then, for example, generate content from that knowledge base or reach out to a client. In other words, it can perform a large number of tasks. There was even a case when Tatiana Denisenko was studying, and she transferred 70% of her business tasks to these AI agents, which led to her business income doubling in just 1 month. That's a significant increase. And this was achieved through the automation of processes they already had. And the next method I told you about is how to send 1,000 requests to ChatGPT. This involves connecting a special service called GPT for Work to Google Sheets, and then you can send 1,000 requests to ChatGPT from Google Sheets at the same time. So as you can see on the screen, here's what happens. We have a table with products on a marketplace. On the right, we created columns. Each column is responsible for things like titles, product descriptions, and so on. In each cell, we placed a formula that takes data from the prompt written in the first row and the product data written in the row next to that prompt. And then what happens is that this information from the neighboring cells is sent to ChatGPT from this cell. And then, as you can do in spreadsheets, you take this cell and replicate it across 100,500 positions, and lo and behold, you instantly send 100,500 requests to the neural network. In reality, you can send several hundred, even 1,000 requests to ChatGPT at the same time and immediately get the result. Here's another example of how this can be used. It can be used for hiring. It can be used for sales. Basically, anywhere you have large data tables that need to be analyzed, ranked, rewritten, or reorganized in some way, this method works great, and it works both with Google Sheets and can be connected to Excel as well. And the main secret I want to share with you today is a non-obvious story about how to increase efficiency and speed when working with neural networks. For many, it might even be shocking. So keep those with weak nerves away from the screen. Don't use ChatGPT, and now you'll say, wait, what do you mean don't use ChatGPT? You just spent half an hour telling me how to use ChatGPT. Well, yes, give me 2 minutes and I'll explain. Because ChatGPT is like a Swiss Army knife. It's a universal tool, but it's not specialized. And when we're tackling specialized tasks, of course, we need to use specialized neural networks. For example, for generating names and brand identities, there's a neural network called Namelex that, based on keywords, creates a complete logo, brand style, and name. For creating presentations, it's better to use Gamma instead of ChatGPT. Of course, you can create the structure and text in ChatGPT and then transfer it to Gamma, but even in Gamma, it will be faster. And to create websites, you can use other neural networks. And here's another example, right? If we want to analyze documents, ChatGPT claims it can handle 1 million tokens. In reality, from a 100-page document, it analyzes about 20, 30, sometimes 50 pages. Claude, its competitor, can analyze 100 pages, 110 pages, even 150 pages. If we need even more, Google Gemini, in its paid version, can analyze up to 300 pages of a document. If we need precise information search, Perplexity. If we need to analyze a large number of YouTube videos or certain files that serve as a knowledge base and focus exclusively on them, so as not to make anything up, but to conduct analytics, research, or methodological inquiries, then Notebook LM or Yandex Expert are excellent choices. If we need to gather up-to-date data, then yes, ChatGPT Deep Research. So it turns out that for different tasks, you need to use different neural networks. Understanding this is extremely important if you want to increase your income and your speed. And I have a separate video about this, which is called How to Reach a New Level of Income Nero X10. In that video, I talk about these things. Well, I've just gone through 16 secrets for you. And no, I didn't make a mistake in the title where it says 46. And now someone might ask, Pasha, where are the promised 46 secrets? Well, here they are. And you can pause the video and take a screenshot of the entire list, because this is a checklist you can use every day when working with neural networks. Because when you start working with AI as a system, rather than just as entertainment, it becomes an effective tool, and each of these 46 points is a specific solution that saves time, speeds up your work, and eliminates chaos. And where efficiency increases, income increases. And together, all of this is the system. My friends, first of all, subscribe and give a like if this was helpful. If any of these methods were useful to you, feel free to write which one exactly. I carefully read your comments and reply to all of them. Second, as I promised, the 10 AI assistants that save me more than 300,000 rubles a month are already available via the link in the description and in the pinned comment under the video. And third, of course, the 2,000 prompts I mentioned, you can find them below the video through the link and in the pinned comment. Take them, use them, right here and now, and create much more with neural networks so that you have more time left for life. This was Pavel Lebedev with you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.